Do you love the fun and flavor of elf decks but can't afford to play a modern Coco elf build? Take a taste of Magic's most budget-friendly format and try Pauper Elves, one of the most fun, fast, and competitive decks of the format. Like most elf decks, Pauper Elves aims to flood the field quickly with plenty of elves to take an opponent down. But unlike most modern elf decks, which could cost upwards of $800, the build presented in this video can be put together for about $40. Keep in mind that Pauper format's top decks cost a mere fraction of modern decks, and many modern decks have Pauper equivalents. So let's start by talking about the two most expensive cards of this deck, Nettle Sentinel and Priest of Titania. These two cards will run you about $2 each, and we will want full play sets of each. Priest of Titania is hands down the best common elf for mana production, as a single priest can produce a ton of mana on its own. Nettle Sentinel, a mainstay in both modern and Pauper Elf builds, is used in conjunction in the modern version with Heritage Druid to produce a ton of mana to play your other elves. But this is Pauper, we don't have Heritage Druid. Instead, we run Birchlore Rangers, who does a very similar job, but for 1 elf less and makes 2 mana less. This is our main combo, as 2 Nettle Sentinels with a Birchlore Ranger can continuously produce mana for 1-drop creatures. In the way of 1-drop creatures, we run play sets of Quirion Rangers, who can untap one of our Priests of Titania for repeated usage and produce stupidly large amounts of green mana. We also run a couple copies each of Llanowar Elves, Elvish Mystics, and Fyndhorn Elves. These 3 elves are our key first turn drops, as they will begin to produce ridiculous amounts of ramp as early as turn 2. We also run a few Sylvan Rangers to tutor out the single lone island that we run. That island will come into play later. We have plenty of elves to put into play, so we will want to take advantage of those numbers with cards like Wellwisher and Timberwatch Elf. Timberwatch Elf can buff a single creature for every elf in play. Wellwisher gives us a life boost for every elf in play, which can lead to some incredibly high numbers. Wellwisher is amazing for this deck, as we will gain immense amounts of life with just 1 Wellwisher, and we run a full playset of each. Timberwatch Elf can target any creature, so whatever creature goes in unblocked can be boosted in for lethal damage. And at the top of our curve is Lys Alana Huntmaster. With every elf that we play, we get a 1/1 elf. We'll be casting a lot of elf spells, so we'll be getting a ton of value from the Lys Alana Huntmaster. For non-creature spells, this deck runs 2. Firstly, we run a playset of Distant Melody. Did we run out of elves in our hand to cast? Let's fill it back up by dropping a Melody. We'll draw a ton of cards to start all over again with casting more elves. It's so ridiculous, it's the only card we run an island for in the entire deck. We also run a copy of Viridian Longbow. The single damage the equipped creature can ping in for can quickly add up as we work through our untapped shenanigans. Our land base is super easy. We're in Pauper and we're playing elves. We don't need much, a single island and 13 forests. Boom, done, no mess. Now for our sideboard, we will have a couple of options. Much of this area is heavily dependent on your local meta, or the online meta. We will want to run a full playset of Moment's Peace. The Flashback Fog is double value and a great card to have. A few copies of Gleeful Sabotage will handle the Affinity and Tron decks you may face, as the Artifact Hate will wreck their strategies. I prefer to run a pair of Rapid Vigor to help prevent board wipes that'll ruin our strategy, and to help even more life gain, perhaps a few copies of Luminescent Rain. We also can run some Wirewood Pride and Aspect of Hydra, as these 2 cards will easily pump up your damage to 20 and more if you need to push through quickly. The final cost for this deck, get ready, it's a doozy, $40. That's right, $40. It's cheaper than a fat pack. That'll get you the entire deck plus sideboard as of the making of this video. $40 will get you a competitive and fun Pauper Elf deck. The online price for the Magic the Gathering Online version of Pauper Elves is a little bit higher at 43 ticks, but it's still a small percentage of what a modern elf deck would cost. That's going to wrap up our first Pauper deck tech. I hope you enjoyed it. What do you think of the Pauper format? I feel that we should push this game to be played more in paper Magic because it's a shame that it's mostly an online-only format. Be sure to stay tuned for more deck techs for Pauper as we introduce you to some of the most fun decks in the most affordable format. Leave me a comment down below with your thoughts, and be sure to subscribe to the Planeswalker Project for even more Magic the Gathering videos.